Welcome to Holland. We are a big canal system in the south of the country, typical of loads of canals that you find around this part of Europe. So everything that we're going to show you is applicable to the canal near to you. The fish in here, we're told that there might be fish over 50 pounds swimming up and down, but it's a big long stretch. We've got 12 kilometres between locks on this bit, and there's a bit that goes even further than that. So they could literally be anywhere, but that is half the battle. And when you're trying to find them, mate, that's #1 priority, surely, isn't it?
Yeah, well, location is the priority in any type of carp fishing, but it's made much easier on a lake because you can see such a larger amount of water at any one time. On here, you're only ever going to be looking at 2 or 3 acres maximum, so the location is going to be difficult, especially trying to watch at dawn.
But we've already seen 2.
But we've already seen 2, yeah, no, we have, yeah. So maybe it's not that difficult.
Right, okay. So the plan is we'll set up where we've seen the fish, one of us.
Yeah.
Basically me. But we have seen them in 2 different spots up here, haven't we? Yeah.
Cool.
And because there's people fishing, just day fishing up where you're thinking of going, you know, which has got all the stanchions in the water and a bit of weed and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We saw one show there, so it's an obvious place. But you know, there's no point just sitting there waiting for them to go. You're going to go and have a look round here.
Yeah, because I haven't been here before. It'd be nice just to have a little drive up and down the towpath, look out for any obvious features, you know, like clumps of weed, areas of reed beds and stuff where people can't really get to, and hopefully that's somewhere where the carp are likely to pass and maybe stop around for.
Right, okay, so our approach at the moment is we're going to go and find them. The other approach, obviously, is getting them to find us, which is putting loads of bait in. Yeah. And I've done that on. I came here for a little sort of look around a little while ago, and I was able to put bait into places round the bridges, you know, anywhere where there's obstacles in the water. So we'll obviously keep an eye on that as well. But if they're showing out there and fizzing up, it's mad to go anywhere else, isn't it?
Well, especially when the pub's just there, mate.
So we're going to get set up. Daryl's going to go off and see if he can find some more, and we'll keep you posted on how we get on. Well, I haven't even got my 3rd rod out. How about that for location? And I've got a carp on. Can't believe it. Great big canal like this. And I've had a bite already. To be fair, there were a lot of fish here. We saw a couple show. Oh, should concentrate on this really. We saw a couple show. There was a lot of fizzing going on out there, and I've basically cast out 2 rods beyond the fish and then wound back 10 or 15 turns and dropped it in, and then put about 100 small baits out over the top, and half an hour later it's roared off. I'm going to shut up now and try and get him in. Nice mirror. No. need to proper shake him. Come on, you old canal carp. Get in that net. Go on, Daniel. Get in that net. Yes, get in! Yes. Wicked, man, wicked. Feels big.
Feels big.
Feels big.
It's not quite 40, but it's a smidgen under 39.
Wicked, man. Check that out. What a carp. Just under 39 pound. Over the moon to get one so quickly. And what an amazing fish to start our account on this fantastic canal. And I'm going to get the rod back out again, see if we can catch another one. Just shows you location is everything.
Coming Dan, are you there?
Dan receiving, over.
You'll never guess what is going on in my swim at the moment, mate.
I've got a 150-foot boat trying to park right next to my carp sack.
Have you had one?
Yeah, mate, in the middle of the night, probably sort of 3 o'clock in the morning, it absolutely bust off. Proper good battle on that, and it's a 32-pound common, mate.
Mate, that is absolutely wicked. 2 30-pounders in the first 24 hours.
Yeah, you couldn't have wrote it, could you? I was a little bit worried about the location on the way out here, thinking it'd be difficult to find them, but yeah, stroke of luck yesterday, and proof in the pudding, find them and you can catch them.
Yeah, man, bit of good news from down here as well. I moved me right-hand rod, leapfrogged the other two this morning at first light because I'd seen some showing down a little bit towards you, and I've had like a proper wildy looking common, probably 18 pounds. So you know, I'll come down and do your pictures, really want to see this fish, and then afterwards you can come up and return the favour.
Okay, mate, that sounds absolutely bob on. Well done, mate.
Cheers, dude. Same to you. He's wicked.
Yeah, there we go.
We're 48 hours into our session now, done 2 nights, and didn't catch anything last night. It looked like we were going to be honest. The fish showed out where I'd got the bite from that morning, and I thought something might have happened last night, but it hasn't. And it seems obvious that the fish have either moved off or are now aware of the angling pressure. And I think people don't give enough credence to the line being in the water, the constant recasting. You know, these fish know what anglers are. They've been fished for years. There's half a dozen anglers dotted up and down this stretch almost every day of the week. You know, so they know what anglers are. And to sit in the same spot hoping the fish are going to come back, you know, really is a false economy. So it's time to move on. Last time I was here, I saw quite a few fish in other parts of the canal. I didn't fish for them because it was just a looking mission. And now basically I'm going to go back to those spots, put some bait in and see if the fish will come right in the edge in that same area, and obviously keep going up and down the canal, keep looking and looking and looking until we find what we saw when we first got here.
One of the things that you're up against when you come to a canal is the limited water that you can watch at any one time. You know, the biggest asset you can have when you're fishing is to look. And if you can see lots of water at any one time, you have the opportunity to watch a higher percentage of that water and have the opportunity to see something. In a canal situation, you're like, once you get out of this marina bit and a bit further down, it's only 70 yards wide, and you can look left and look right, but your angle of view is so limited, and so much can be going on further out of sight. So the real key for location is keeping on your toes, getting walking, getting on the bike, getting in the car, driving about, because just standing in one position is not going to help you.
I think when we first got here, we got bites straight away because the fish were here and they were happy. They were already feeding, there was bubbles coming up, they were showing. You know, we got out with minimum disturbance. I cast past the fish and wound the rod back and dropped it in amongst them. Little tiny 15mm banoffees over the top to make hardly any splash at all, and it worked. And then the following morning, wound the rod in because I'd seen fish to the left of the area rather than the right. Wound the right rod in, put it out amongst the fish again, a few baits over the top, and it went almost straight away. So at the moment, in these warm conditions when the fish are very, very nomadic, I think that seems to be the way. Later on in the year, when it cools down and the fish mass up a bit more, they start harvesting on the natural food sources which are dwindling, then I think the fish will stay in one area for longer and you can build up a bigger hit of fish. But at the moment, the fish are highly nomadic and we need to move with them. From what we've seen of the local anglers, it's no different to the other places that we've fished in Europe and most of the places in the UK, to be honest. People fish through convenience. So if they can park right next to their swim, if it's a great big flat open area, they're the spots that get taken. So we're going to do the complete opposite of that, and we're only going to fish where we see fish. And I know that sounds stupid, but so few people seem to do it. They're not looking for carp, they're looking for a flat area to put their bivvy, and that definitely makes the fishing so much harder. So by using your eyes as your best weapon in fishing, you can get on the fish and get bites far quicker than most other people. Right, smaller, 22.
22?
Yeah.
Decent, that is. That's all right, that is. Go on. Have him down, please. Mate, he's well all right. He's getting bigger by the second. Right now, he's coming. Yes!
Just shy of 30.
We'll check him out. A cracking Dutch Canal common, 28 pounds, over the moon with him. Came to a rod, cast really close in. I was going to go out into the middle, but they were coming right under my rod tips. So I flicked it out there, put a few baits around it, and this is the result. Proof in the pudding, the location is everything, simple tactics, and you can have them just like this. The location for this session was firstly based in the harbour around the fish that we saw jumping, you know, and we caught on the opening night, and that's to be expected. You know, sea fish topping, get out there minimal, then quite often you can catch them really quickly. The second day we didn't see anything showing and we caught nothing. We went for a look on the bikes, had a little cycle around, found some fish, you know, got on them again. I had another take, and then the fish were heavily in residence when I moved on the day when I swimmed a new swim. And yeah, we had more bites. And on the day, basically what's happened, on the days when we've not seen many carp in a swim, we've had nothing. And that is just exactly the proof you need that location on a canal is absolutely everything.
Because the canal is so slow flowing in most of the sections, I've started off really just using rigs that I would use on a lake. So everything's been kept simple, but very, very aggressive and very, very effective. So my usual hybrid stiff hook link that I've turned into a D rig, I've stripped a little bit away by the hook so the hook can turn and catch hold that little bit better. That's been really successful for me on other places recently. So I've just employed exactly the same tactics here. And the hook baits that we use everywhere, surprise, surprise, the banoffees and the peaches and cream have both done brilliantly. Those fished over the top of the high impact banoffee is an absolutely winning combination.
My rigs for this session have not really altered at all from the stuff that I would use on a lake to any other water of any description. You know, I'm using a rig that suits the bait that I'm using and is suited to clean bottoms, and the Canal has that. You know, it's enabled me to fish with confidence. You know, and that's the key. You know, I can really concentrate on the location. It's enabled for me to just take that side of things out of my mind. You know, I'm using something that I've got 100% confident in. All I have to do is locate the carp, and then the rig as such is just a tool for the job.
I've changed the leads around depending on where I've been fishing. At the very top end where it widened out, I was just using a cog lead, but not in cog style. So it was a flat lead, 3.5 ounce distance, and that was basically to get me out there and to hold bottom when any of the boats came through. And then I adjusted over to a gripper lead later on in the session because I was fishing a narrower bit, and as the big boats came through, it generated a massive amount of backwash, and I was just worried that the rig was going to get moved about.
The baiting strategy has been find them, put out just enough bait for a bite, maybe 30 to 40 boilies. I always think that's a good amount to go in with when you're on fish. Get the leads out, minimal, just a few baits, because you know baiting up is just as much disturbance as casting, and I think you only need 30 or 40 to generate some interest.
Our baiting strategy has been simplicity itself, not much different to be honest to when Darryl and I fished a big lake in Belgium last year. We're chasing the fish around, so we're only using small baits and we're not putting a lot in at all. We've brought 25 millers because we thought the bream were going to be a real problem. That's a new addition to the high impact range, but if you're putting 25 millers over the top of showing fish, they're just going to do the off. So we've just been skimming out 15 millers, sometimes some 20s, sometimes half baits, but most importantly, hardly any bait at all. So anyone on any budget can fish this kind of place. Your biggest weapon is effort and your eyes. So all the expensive tackle in the world isn't going to make any difference at all if you're not on the fish. So by moving around a lot, keeping on the fish all the time, that's how we've caught them. And just a little sprinkling of bait over the top of a single hook bait is enough to get a bite.
Considering I've never been to this canal, I'm quite pleased with the results we've had. You know, I think Dan's done well, I've done well, but we haven't set the world on fire, you know. You're not gonna, you know, when you've got 12 kilometres of canal that you've never seen before, you're not gonna find enough information during each day to lead you to the big results, you know. And the fish, from what I can see, are very well spread out through the river. As far as what I can do next time to improve on it, obviously we've got an idea of a couple of spots where they like to go because we've seen them in a couple of areas. So obviously we can check these areas again. But I think the real key is to get packed up early in the morning, get everything back into the van and get on the search for throughout the day and try and stay on them every single day.
After that amazing success at the start of the session, catching that truly beautiful carp, just under 39 pounds, I was absolutely blown away. Things tailed off. The next morning I caught another one when the fish was still there. Both times I was casting towards showing fish, casting beyond them, winding back and just dropping it down into where all the bubbles were. And I've carried on following the fish up and down the canal. I've moved 3 times, fished 4 different swims, and one of the other nights I was very close to Darryl and I was on them as well. They were showing there. I can't explain why I didn't catch anything. So from that point of view, I'm disappointed. I feel we've done okay on our first trip to a new canal, but I would have liked to have caught more. Really, I think the amount of times we've been on the fish, we probably could have doubled our catch. But obviously that spurred me on to come back and do more next time. I've got loads of little things in my armoury now that I'm going to bring onto the canal next time. We've started baiting up spots, and most importantly, places where people can't really get to the water's edge. So we'll be creating new swims next time, I guess, if the fish are in that area, and fishing in places where no man has gone before. Really surprised to be attached to another fish. We looked and looked and looked yesterday and just couldn't find anything, and in the end just set up in an area close to where we'd fished before. I couldn't fish exactly where I fished before because a boat was moored up there, so I've come to the other side, incorporated the stage stands in my singles bank stick system. Unfortunately, using a grub screw, oh, it's probably going, this fish. Using a grub screw has meant I can get them into this concrete just in the gaps in between the bricks. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, it has roared off. A rod casting at midnight, just 20 banoffees round it, and a white banoffee on the end, and it's chugging. Well, I've seen it. It's looks like a low to mid 20 common, giving a proper good account for itself. And at this stage of the fight, it's just important just to take your time, and letting the rod and the reel do the work. Clutch is set on these cast-isms; they're just smooth as silk, and means I can't pull too hard. And with the fish circling underneath my feet here, the last thing I want to do is pull the hook out. So just being super careful not to put too much pressure on it and just tire it out just over a period of time. Get in!
Nice shoes.
Do you like when it all clean plain?
Thought there were clogs through in it.
You're going to have to tell me how to get this out of the water because you've had a bite down here and I'll...
Yeah, well, we just get round it, don't we?
Come on, big fella. Oh. How about that for a classic Dutch Canal common? £30 on the button. Absolutely chuffed to bits with this one. And never saw a fish. Didn't see one last night, set up in the dark. Never saw them this morning. And it just roared off. And that shows the power of the white banoffees over the top of the banoffee bottom baits. And that all-important D-rig. A wicked start to the session. When you're fishing canals like this in the summertime, you've got to find the fish and you've got to let the fish tell you where you need to be. So you've got to look. We've been spending probably 75% of our time looking, 25% of our time fishing. We've been spending hours and hours and hours riding up and down, driving up and down, looking for fish cruising, which you do see in the hot weather, or looking for fish showing, but that only really happens first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening. So if you turn up in the middle of the day to set up, you're probably not going to find them. So absolutely, your eyes are your best weapon. it was worth waiting all day to choose a swim. Rushing to get rods out before it got dark, because the fish have turned back up in this same area that they were in on our last session, and Darryl and I have jumped in either side of them, and I've sat in other swims all around the canal, miles apart, didn't see anything show, and we sent one of our crew down here, Elliot, who's an angler, to look at this area again. We've not seen anything here during the day, even in the hot weather. There've been no fish cruising, and just as it was getting dark, when everybody else is set up, the bivvies are out and everything else, everyone's made their choice, the fish started showing. There we go, it's a nice carp, that is. That is a really, really nice fish. Come on, fella. One of the big mirrors. It is one of the big mirrors. Get in that net. Get in that net, you big Dutch carp. Yes, get in. Ah, that is a proper big one. Get in. Ah, can't believe it, man. There are only a few big ones in this stretch, and that is one of them. That is a monster. Oh man, this is what carp fishing is all about. Yeah, I'm alright, Oh, it's heavy. Look at that.
Big. That's
Big,
really
man.
big.
That's one of the biggest ones in here, isn't it? It's
Oh,
gotta
mate,
be.
gotta be. Absolute monster. Looks like something at Harrow.
44 exactly. 20 kilo carp out the canal.
Bomb.
Get in!
It looks bigger than that. It looks much bigger than that. It
does.
looks like a 48 pounder.
It does, mate. It looks like a 50 pounder in the net.
I'm not looking at kilos, am I?
Mate, 44, bang on. Okay. Check that out. 44 pounds of canal carp. My first 40 pounder from Holland, and an absolutely amazing creature, one I am so proud to catch. 20 kilo carp from the canal. That is a proper achievement. Job done. Right, we're going to put him in the sling. Only a few hours till it gets light, and show you in all his glory in the morning. Leave it to the last minute and get on the fish. Both Darren and I are using the rigs that we love to use everywhere. I'm using the D rig, he's on his simple braid, and both have worked, as have those all important high impact banoffee hook baits. I'm blown away. One last look at a proper beast, a proper achievement from a super tough canal. One of the best carp I have ever caught. Check that out. 44 pounds. Yeah. Wicked. Mwah. Get in!
Right, well, as you can see, it's blazing hot. Just put that little bit of bait in and they're straight on it. So I'm going to get this rig in the water as quickly as I can.
Well, here's the rig that I've been using over the last couple of sessions, and I'm going to talk you through it. First of all, I've got the white banoffee hook bait. First go-to thing for me when fishing in Europe over boilies. They stand out, nice and slow sinking, so makes them easily picked up and easily spotted. Knotless knotted to a size 4 wide gape X. I've gone for the X and the size 4 just for the added security. You know, sometimes we've been fishing near some structure and snags and stuff, and that just gives me a little security. In this instance, using the 20-pound dark matter braid, I've gone for a 14-turn knotless knot, and that allows for the hair to exit exactly level with the point, and just a 10mm gap between that and the boilie, and I find that just hangs down perfectly, ready to catch the bottom lip. In some instances, I've been using the 30-pound, and in that case, 12-turn knotless knot, and that again exits just level with the point. The rig itself is 8 to 9 inches long, and I'd maybe make it a little bit longer if the bottom's really soft, like it has been on some occasions here. Hybrid leg clip, my go-to thing for all of my fishing. The main thing about it is the swivel cannot pop out the front, and that makes sure that the lead disengages should it need to. Neat tail rubber popped on the end there, and again, as always, the super supple, ultra heavy dark matter tubing. Super easy to thread, and just lays perfectly over the contours of the bottom. Really nice bit of kit. You will notice that I'm using a gripper lead here in this situation, and that's because when the boats come past, you know, you get a little bit of a wash, and there's potential to get dragged off the spot, and these grippers just give you that extra hold on the bottom to stop that happening. You'll see that it's a real simple, very similar to what I used in Belgium last year, and you may think that it looks too simple, you know, to catch big fish, but wherever I've gone, when I've been on them and I thought I should have caught, I always do. And as long as you've got a big bait, like 18 to 20mm, you should suffer no tangles as long as you hit your clip and then feel it down to the bottom. So there you have it, my super simple rig. Take it anywhere and it should do the damage for you. Well, I was just about to say it was all over. In fact, I said it, but I've seen fish swim out of this cage, if you like, of this spawning bay, and just as I was walking back to the car with my hopes in tatters, this one's just ripped off. It's not a big one, but it's going to save the blank this trip and prove that the hard work can pay off. Yes, get in, come on. You got it. We'll check this little fella out. I really thought the chance had gone. I've had that bait blown out, and before that the rig chucked off the spot, and just when all my hope had left me, this little fella come on the other rod, so I'm over the moon with him. And it just goes to show, in the heat of the day when the boat traffic is at its worst, these little spawning bays, which we are allowed to fish because we had a little ask up and we found out we are, a perfect little stalking spots. And right in the middle of the afternoon, in the blazing sunshine, they can be caught and they're still feeding. there he is. I tell you, at the start of the week with the overcast conditions, it was really hard to find them, but the sun's come out and I've been able to watch them, and there's been a couple of really big fish feeding there. I tell you, if this one was 28, God knows how big the other ones were. Just amazing watching him taking hook bait, seeing his reaction as he felt the lead and then bolting off. Yeah, great fun, great fun. Well, I think putting him back in here will probably kill the chances of those other big ones, but I don't really care. An amazing capture.
Buzzer on, and we are angling. So the hardware I'm using on the Canal is picked specifically for this kind of fishing. So the rods, first of all, they're the Mission DF, new ones in the DF range. They're the bottom end of the price point, but they have not scrimped on quality. Fantastic rods, really good recovery, brilliant value for money. These are the 12-foot 3.5s. They're the heaviest ones in the 12-foot range. And I've been punching 4-ounce grippers 90 yards and hitting the clip with 20-pound line on. So they've got a really good recovery for a low-end rod, fantastic action and really good power. And you'll notice in all the fights, the rod is hooped right over. It's got a fantastic battle curve. And I basically picked the heaviest one because I'm using heavy line, because I'm going to be using heavy leads. You might as well have more power in the rod. So if you've got to punch it that little bit further, it is there. So that's the Mission DF rod. And then the reels, this is a new reel in my fishing as well. This is the Carsism. It's a brand new reel that's come from Japan. Daiwa are really excited about this one. It's got a Rolls-Royce clutch on it. Just ticks along when you're playing a fish. If you set the clutch right, you just let the rod and the reel do the work. The rod's hooped over. You can't pull too hard because the line's coming off the clutch, and they cast like an absolute dream as well. I actually went out with Daryl and Damien casting these against a Basia, and the difference in distance was about 3 or 4 yards. You know, and that's going 130, 140 yards with these reels. And they're loaded with 20-pound touchdown in brown. I've chosen the brown because the water here in the Canal is a very muddy brown colour, so it blends in perfectly. And I've chosen 20-pound because you don't know what snags are out there. It's 0.43 diameter, so it's really abrasive stuff. And I've had fights where I've been playing fish through snags and stuff, and it's come through brilliantly. So if you're going to do this sort of fishing, you know, you want to be able to land the biggest fish that you're fishing for. And in this Canal, there are several 50-pounders, you know, so you want to have big, strong gear on. So if you do get attached to one, the line doesn't snap. So the 20-pound touchdown is also very low stretch. That's a big part of my fishing, is feeling the lead hit the bottom, and the touchdown exaggerates that feeling from normal mono. So basically I've got it on all my reels in different breaking strains. And if you couple the whole setup together, so you've got that slightly smaller Carsism, which is a bit lighter in weight, you've got these 3.5-pound Mission DFs and the 20-pound touchdown, that is a beautifully balanced set of kit, and it will cope with this sort of fishing, like up to 100 yards with leads up to 4 or 5 ounces really well. But like in this situation, if you want to flick a 2.5 or a 3-ounce lead quietly into the area, you can do that as well. So it is very versatile. And then moving on to the bank stick system, I'm sure the tackle tarts amongst you have already noticed this one and are wondering where it comes from. This is my design. I've been testing it for years and years. We've not found a manufacturer that can make it good enough to suit how I want to fish with it and all the rigours that we put it through. But finally, we've found the right people. I'm really proud to say that Jag Products are now making this for us. So it's made in the UK to an absolutely fantastic standard, and this is the best set of these that I've ever used. I've fished 4 different sets in testing, and they've all had something about them that hasn't been quite right, and that's why it hasn't come out on the market. But now we're working with Jag, everything is absolutely perfect. Basically, I've got the short ones at the back, longer ones at the front, and they're jacked up, but in different situations I'll be turning it round the other way, so the longer ones are at the back, short ones at the front, the rods are pointing down. At the other end of the Canal, where you've got a real big drop to the water and you're using back leads, you want the rods pointing down. In this situation where I'm going up over all these rocks in the edge, you want the rod tips pointing up. So it's very versatile that you can change all of that around and make it super, super stable. And up the other end there, used a raw plug, tapped it in between the bricks and used the stage stand version of this. So basically you don't use the spike, you don't use the stabiliser, you replace it with a stage stand, and I'm actually able to use that on brick, and it's lovely and stable and it looks absolutely brilliant. So that's my hardware for this kind of fishing. The rods themselves, brilliant for the money, the real super light Rolls-Royce clutches, and the bank stick system could not be sexier. So the move paid off. 10 kilometres from, oh no, it's a mirror. It's a lovely little mirror. 10 kilometres from the old swim to the new swim. Was going to go and fish on my bait because I've been down here and baited up in advance the day before, but I saw the fish here, and the move paid off because we are in. The fish is coming really quickly. It's only a double by the look of it, but now he's doing all his fighting under the rod tip. Oh, in he comes, get in! That is wicked, well chuffed for that. It is dawn on our final morning on the canal, and I'm into another carp. Same rod as roared off a while ago with that beautiful, beautiful zip linear that we've still got in the sling. And it's an area that I've seen the fish showing pretty regularly, and it's no coincidence that it's in between all the barges and it's a difficult place to fish, and it's only because I'm able to get my rods into the concrete here with the singles bank stick system that I'm able to. There he's just caught up with the fish again, just swimming towards me. Yeah, that I'm able to fish in this bit, and as usual, fishing where the fish are showing is producing the takes. Get in, yes, come on. That is wicked, man, wicked. Check this out. Look at that. What an amazing creature. 23 pounds, 12 ounces, the one that came in the dark, the first half of the brace. Just an awesome, awesome carp. If it had just been this one, I would have still been over the moon, but we've got a bigger one to show you. Check that out for a Canal common. Look at that. That is amazing, man. 31.25, fought like a demon. Look at the fins on it. Prehistoric monster. Just absolutely over the moon. This is the rig that's been doing the damage on the Canal for me. Very, very similar to what I use on lakes because basically there's almost no flow here. So to start off with the hook bait, this is a Banoffee 20mm slow sinker. Catches absolutely everywhere, this one. Haven't taken it to a lake where it hasn't done the business. I've been using the peaches and cream slow sinkers as well, and the important thing is the colour and also the fact that they've got some buoyancy to them, so the hook will lay flat on the bottom and the bait will just hover above. So when the fish comes along and sucks it in, it goes into their mouth that little bit easier. And I think these white ones look like one of the Banoffee freebies that's been out there quite a long while and has washed out, but has still got a really good smell to it. So that's the hook bait. Moving down onto the hook, it's a size 2 curve shank. My favourite pattern of hook, a straight point that catches hold really, really quickly. And a size 2 just matches the size of that bait perfectly. I like using big hooks when I'm fishing in these kind of situations. You've got big fish, you're having to play them really hard at times. I want a big, strong hook on the end. And I think a big hook catches hold in the fish's mouth faster than a small hook. You can imagine a size 8 like rattling around and not really touching the flesh. These ones are nailing them every single time. So that is tied onto a hook link, which is basically a combi link. This is hybrid stiff, so it's a braided core with a very stiff outer. It's my favourite sort of coated hook link, and I've basically done it D-rig style. So it's similar to the IQ D-rig, but the reason I'm not using IQ is because it can be snaggy out there, and if you use a mono, that gets cut that bit more easily than having a braided core with a coating on the outside. So if you're going to fish in snaggy conditions and you want to use a D-rig, the hybrid stiff is the one I recommend. So to tie it, basically just using my favourite whipping knot, just 4 turns of that. So basically you make a big loop underneath the hook. With the front of the loop, you whip up towards the eye once, then you whip again, crossing over, and then 3 times down towards the point, and then the little tag end pulls it all tight, and that is the whipping knot done. You know, that basically forms the start of your D. Cut the tag end off, and then basically put a micro rig swivel on. That pulls up really nicely inside the bait. It's just the right size to hold it nice and tight. And basically that slid on, and then I'll do the knotless knot. Very, very simple. Make sure you turn away from the join between the shank of the hook and the eye of the hook, so you're not pulling the material into where the two join together. So 4 or 5 turns of that, back through the eye towards the point, and just pull it super tight. And then what I'm doing is I'm stripping off about 1 inch underneath the hook. So I'm leaving a little tiny bit out of the eye, still coated, and then using a stripper, I'm stripping about 1 inch back, pulling the rest of it off with my teeth. So I've basically got a hinge at that point, and that allows the hook to turn and catch hold that bit more aggressively. Now what I've noticed, I've used this straight through a lot, so hybrid striff all the way through to the hook, no breaking it at all, and I've had the odd hook pull. So recently I've started stripping a bit away near the hook, and I'm getting absolutely banging hook holds. So over the top of that, I've put a bit of the medium-sized shrink tube that goes onto the eye of the hook really easily and shrinks down really, really small. And all that does is helps the hook kick over and catch hold when the hook link is tightened. And the hook holes we've been getting here have been absolutely amazing. The fish are just nailed every single time, and you need to know that when you're playing them as hard as we have to sometimes. The hook link itself is about 7 inches long. I've actually noticed over the sessions I've shortened everything down, and I'm getting more bites on shorter hook links than I am on long hook links. And if you think these fish are fished for pretty much every day of the year, they know what rigs are. If you've got a rig that's just the right length and it turns and catches hold straight away, you're going to hook more fish. And then at the swivel end there, at the leg clip end, we've got basically a hybrid leg clip with a ring swivel on it. And this is something I've got from Daryl's fishing. You always see him using these, and he's always tying to that ring of that ring swivel, and he never gets tangles. So I've come away from a quick change system and gone over to that to replicate what Daryl's doing. And you watch him when he's casting 60 yards or 150 yards with a braided hook link, it just never tangles. And I've attached that to the lead system, basically using a crimp. The hybrid stiff is the only coated material that you can actually crimp and get a higher breaking strain. If you do it in end trap soft or end trap semi-stiff, it won't actually cut the material, but what it'll do is it'll allow the coating to strip off when you put it under tension, and you'll only get about 10 pounds breaking strain out of it. This one we've tested rigorously, and if you crimp it properly, a 20-pound material turns into a 28-pound material. So it suits this material really well. Basically, to do that, the crimp is double barreled, so you go through one barrel, round the ring of the ring swivel, back through the other barrel, pull it up super tight, and then just put it in the jaws of the crimp tool, lay it in so it fits into one of the little grooves perfectly, squeeze it down super tight, and it's done. So very, very simple. And the lead system, again, copying what Daryl does, I'm using a hybrid lead clip so that you know if the lead gets caught in anything, it's actually going to come off. And it's been really helpful in this situation on the canal because we're moving around a hell of a lot and we're changing lead style and lead size to suit the fishing that we're doing. So when I caught that amazing 44-pounder, I was only using a 2.5-ounce flat pear lead because we were just dinking them out there amongst the fish, putting very small amounts of bait out so as not to scare them away. In this situation, I'm having it cast 90 yards, so basically I've gone over to a cog lead, one of the flat ones, not fish cog style, so this is the cog distance in 3.5, and that's getting me that 90 yards, hitting the clip and feeling it down perfectly, and it's not moving around with the swell of the boats, it's just staying put. So that's working in that situation. And then if there's loads of flow, which in other bits of the canal we are finding there's more flow, I'm moving over to a gripper lead, a 3-ounce if there's not a lot of flow and we're casting to showing fish, or a 4-ounce if there's loads of flow. And a gripper will basically hold the bottom an ounce or two more than a standard lead. So a 4-ounce gripper is like having a 6-ounce round lead on. So if you've got flow where you're fishing, a gripper is absolutely the way to go. So having that hybrid lead clip means we can take the leads on and off, we can take them off completely in transit so we're not smashing the rods around, and it just makes the whole thing so versatile. And then just to finish that off, you've got a rubber connector on the back of it, and then the all-important dark matter rig tube into the end of there. My absolute favourite rig tube, threads so easily, really, really supple, so it picks up the contours of the bottom, and super heavy as well. And I'm not using like 5-6 foot of it, just about 18 inches, something like that, so that the hook link can't get round the main line on the cast, and that is it. So that's the rig that's been doing the business here. Like I say, we're changing things around to suit how much flow and whether the fish are close to us or not. But if you want something that's versatile and you can fish on virtually any canal, that is what I recommend. And then to show you the sort of the next step up, if I was fishing one of these really, really difficult canals where the fish are coming across your rigs all the time, they're very, very riggy, I would move over to this. So this is basically a cog lead, which basically means centre of gravity. So you're picking the lead up from the middle of the lead. And I have used it here when I've been casting down to showing fish and I'm not fishing at very long distance. I've been using this, but if you wanted to go real extreme distance, this does cut it down a bit. But if you're fishing really close in, I know a lot of the guys on the Albert Canal, they're fishing really close in and just dropping the rigs in, literally lowering them off the rod tip. One of these in like a 5, 6 or even 8 ounce is so much more efficient at hooking the fish than the standard lead system because there's just no play. As soon as the fish picks that up, it's picking the whole weight up instantly. And again, just fished on a normal lead clip and then a rubber and your dark matter rig tube exactly the same. The hook link is exactly the same, hybrid stiff, a little bit stripped away, and a size 2 curve with a D. So all of that remains exactly the same. But if you're fishing for riggy carp and you're either going out in the boat or using a remote control boat or just dropping the rig in, the cog is absolutely the way to go.
Well, last night I was stalking into that bay until well after dark, but no more fish were coming. In the end, I decided to come onto the main canal just outside the entrance, hopefully pick up any traffic of any carp sort of coming back into the bay this morning. And sure enough, this little fella has picked it up. I literally cast out 20 yards down either margin and threw 20 or 30 boilies round it. And this is the result, this little fella here. Get in. So there you have it, the perfect end to my lovely experience here on the Dutch Canal. Awesome, awesome stuff.
Nice mirror, come on. Pulling that right under the boat. Come on, yes, come this way. Yes, got him! Come on! Oh, man. 3 in the morning, get in! If I lived close to the canal, I would be here all the time. There's no substitute for looking and seeing how the place is living and breathing, seeing where fish are showing, seeing where they're getting caught from. You know, it puts you so much in front of everyone else if you can spend time here regularly. And of course, when I'm doing that, I would be baiting up, just like all the locals do. I'd bait up with 25 millers, so I know that definitely the carp would be eating them. And I would start off by spreading bait all up and down the canal.
A canal to a lake, they're totally different ball games. It's almost a different sport, you know. On a lake, quite often you can see so much water, acres and acres. A fish could show 200 yards away from you, straight in front, opposite you, and you could move around and get onto it. On a canal, if it shows 200 yards to your left or 200 yards to your right, quite often you can't see, you know, the reeds, the bankside cover are getting in the way. So I would recommend getting out on the bike and only set up when you see fish, or if you're going to do the night anyways, leave it until right last knockings.
The major difference between a lake and a canal is the distance the fish can travel away from you once you've spooked them. And we found that you need to be changing swims all the time. You know, I've moved 10 kilometres from where I caught the 44 pounder up to this area and caught 3 more fish. So it makes it hard because you can only see a small section at a time. So you have to do loads of driving around, loads of cycling around, and having a bike is an absolute edge. And if I fished a canal anywhere in the world, I would always take the bike with me.
A lot of people on canals use pre-baiting to try and hold fish in an area, and that is a great way and an effective way. But if you're only fishing occasional short sessions and you can't get to the canal, you know, you don't need a lot of bait to catch fish. We've gone in with just a few handfuls, you know, 40 to 80 baits around each rod. And if you're on the fish, that's more than enough. But it will obviously help you if you can pre-bait.
I would always use a bait that I'm confident with from other sessions. So if it works on a lake or a different canal or a different river, use it here. Personally, I would avoid fish meals here because of the bream. And if you're going to bait up in advance, you're going to pre-bait, then I would use big baits, 25 millers. So, you know, the bream can't eat them and they're going to sit out there till a carp comes along. We've been using the banoffee here from the high impact range, which has performed brilliantly. You know, we've noticed when we've had fish in retention slings that it's been coming out the back end of the fish, so they're obviously eating it, but it's mostly about confidence. We've caught loads of fish on high impact before, we know it works, so that's what we've brought here, and if you do the same, you'll be successful too.
People ask me about rigs. They always say, what rig should I be using in this situation and what rig should I use in that situation? What I would recommend is use what you are confident in, but make sure it's sturdy. So if you usually use size 8s and 15 millers, you might want to use bigger baits, bigger hooks, A, to stop the bream, but also to give you that extra security when you really hook a big one. When fishing a canal, I would suggest you use as thick as line as possible. You don't need to cast very far, so a 0.40, 15 pound, or even a 0.43, 20 pounds, you know. You're gonna encounter snags, often like mussels that are up against like the sides of the canals are very, very sharp. So always fish as tough as you can because you never know when you're gonna hook that fish of a lifetime.
Rigs for the canal can be very similar to what you would fish on the lake. Because we've been backleading the whole time, we've been using quite short hook links. And the reason for that is if you backlead, you're pinning the line to the bottom so the fish haven't got to come in contact with the line when they feed around the rig. If you're fishing bowstring tight lines with the rods up and there's a bit of flow, I always like to use a longer hook link. So so in a river situation, maybe 10, 12 inches, so that the fish can get to the bait without it coming into contact with the anti-tangle system.
In the winter, the location on the canal is going to change drastically. You know, in the summer I said they're in small groups. In the winter I imagine they're in much bigger groups. So what I would do is look around for the wider sections of the canal, the deeper water, possibly with cover from boats, like at the lock here. And in those sort of situations, I imagine they'll be huddled up.
Okay, big fella, up you come. What a way to end our canal masterclass. The same carp I caught at the very start of the journey, just about a pound down, 37.12. What an amazing creature. It's mad to catch the same one twice, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, mental from the same area. Maybe he lives under that boat called Carpio.
Yeah, maybe he does. So what do you reckon, what's next for us?
Well, I think maybe we should tackle one of the hardcore Belgian canals, the ones that are prestige and history are meant to be really, really hard.
Yeah, let's do it, shall we?
Yeah, why not?
Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you in Belgium.